here I am. No phone, no food, and no water. In Canada, in this forest, with nothing but me and myself, my thoughts. Welcome back to another episode of the Tradepreneur Show. Your host, Patrick Summers, and man, do I got some information to fill in for you. First, I want to say, if you're a loyal listener, thank you. And I apologize, I didn't have an episode drop the previous week. And I have good reason. I was, as you know, I spoke a few episodes back about going on a vision quest in Canada. Well, I have returned from that vision quest. And on this episode, I want to talk about some of my takeaways and the experience of that vision quest. I want to share with you some insights, and overall, it was just an amazing experience. And with that said, I flew into Winnipeg, all right, Winnipeg, Canada. It's in the province of Manitoba, Canada. And I spent the night in Winnipeg, and then I drove about 2 hours to a town called Pine Falls. Checked into the only motel in town, the Paper Town Motel, I believe it was called. You know, it was a little motel, but I got to tell you, kind of cool. I was in room 6. Yes, that's how little the motel is. Not 106, room 6. I also want to take this time to recognize one person in particular on this vision quest. While there's a lot of people to recognize, and I hope to cover them all, it was Jamie. Jamie is from Turtle Lodge, and Jamie was so kind and so welcoming and such a help, because obviously I am not versed in vision quests or the indigenous ceremony or anything like that. So she literally met me for coffee in the restaurant the night before the quest started, answered any questions I had. Truthfully, it was probably to check me out to make sure I wasn't a weirdo, because we'd never met before, right? But anyways, we had coffee and she asked me some questions, and it's just a really good energy. You know, I think I'm really good at picking up on people's energy, and she just had a really good energy about her. And she was just a great person to talk to. So anyways, finished the day out, get a good night's sleep. And the next day, basically, one night I spent in the lodge, which this Turtle Lodge, there's a whole story there. Dave, who had a vision to build this lodge, and what a beautiful lodge. What a great place to be. And you want to talk about energy from people. There was an energy in that place. Such a good energy. Anyways, basically we start the vision quest, we start with a sweat lodge. And what a beautiful experience itself. We sang, I didn't sing because I obviously don't know the songs, but I certainly sang along with them in other ways, in the sense that the energy and I know it's so dark in the sweat lodge. And I noticed during some of the songs, I became aware of myself that I was actually like kind of dancing to the music. And just really, what a gift these 2 young men had that were leading this ceremony. Their ability to sing, it was just, it was amazing. That was quite an experience. All right. So anyways, after that, they take us to this called the sacred place. And it is in, I believe, if I remember correctly, it's Shell Provincial Park, which is basically like, I guess we would have here in the States, like, I'm guessing federal land, like a Yosemite or something like that. So, but that is where their people came from. That's their belief is the people came down from the stars at that location. So it's a very sacred place for them. And there was 4 of us that were going to do this vision quest. There was me, and then this young boy who was 13, but because he was 13, he wasn't going to go into the forest where we went. He went to where the elders could kind of keep an eye on him. And then these 2 other gentlemen who I got to know a little bit, and very much enjoyed the brief conversations I had with them. And they were part of the Anishinaabe, and, you know, this is their culture. This is their thing. So they went into the forest. So the 3 of us went in at this sacred place, and, you know, I was told, find a location that calls to you. And so I did. I was, you know, this whole thing is rock where we go. It's just rock. And then there's forest, and then there's section of the rock that's covered in moss. So I was looking along the tree line and I found this location, and I set up my tent on this moss, which was made like a natural bedding. And they basically leave us and they're going to come back and get us. It's like 4 days. They're going to come back and get us Monday. And so here I am, no phone, no food, and no water in Canada, in this forest, with nothing but me and myself, my thoughts. And I have never been alone with myself for that length of time without some sort of distraction, like a phone or a TV or a book or any of the other items that can keep your mind busy, right? So you have a lot of time to think. You have a lot of time to reflect. And I said in a previous episode that there's not much sleep, but there actually the sleep is kind of encouraged because you can dream. And so I would get up every day. I'd get up at sunrise. Sunrise was 5:30, so I'd get up between 5 and 5:30, and I'd go to bed at about sunset. So sunset was about 9:35 or so. And so after sunset, I'd go to bed and I'd sleep. And I slept like a rock. I had some of the best sleep there. And I was out in this forest, and the forest gets deathly quiet at night. And man, I dreamt every night, but I can't tell you what I dreamt. The next morning, I didn't remember my dreams except the first night. The first night, I had two very vivid dreams, one right after the other. Clear as can be, but not clear in the meaning, if that makes sense. Like I could recall the dream. I remember what occurred in the dream. I remember the messages in the dream. Visually, I remember the dream. But I'm like, well, what does that mean? Anyways, obviously the days are long because you're by yourself and there's nothing to do. You're just there, present in the moment. But time also moves, right? Like the day ends and you're like, oh my God, the day is over. So I will tell you, on a Saturday, I happened to be standing up, and I just stand and I'd look into the forest and I'd rotate every now and then and take a different view in. And I just observe, and there's wildlife all around me, especially a lot of birds, hawks. And I thought I was near a body of water. The reason is geese. Geese would fly in the morning, in the evening, and some ducks. I would see ducks, and they were flying. And I'm like, man, there's got to be a body of water nearby. And I knew the direction that the body of water probably was in, but I wasn't positive how far or what the body of water was. Well, lo and behold, at the end, I find out that there's a river that runs right by. And there's other bodies of water too, lakes and things like that. But what was on the other side of the one forest was a river, which was beautiful. I got to see part of it after the vision quest was over. Anyways, this Saturday I'm standing, and this thought comes to me. It was about the dream, the one dream I had. And what came to me was so vividly clear. It took a dream that I had. I knew what it was about, but I didn't know what it meant. It was like, well, what is this? Am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? And then just as clear as day, boom. I was like, no, this is. I'm not going to go into the details of what my visions and stuff were and my dreams, but man, it just gave me such clarity around something that basically what I was seeking. And I didn't know what I was seeking, but I did know what I was seeking. But I don't mean to speak in riddles, but, I kind of knew where I wanted to go or what I needed, but I didn't know how to get there is maybe a good way to say it. So anyways, man, just total clarity. And I apologize that this may not flow and have this energy intensity about it, but this was a really profound experience for me. And so I'm just I want to share with you what it was like. And there's some takeaways here that I'm going to get to. But I did get one of the elders came to visit me on Saturday. And I was sitting on a rock, just staring into the forest. And he came up on me kind of gently because he knew I was kind of captivated. He was watching me, and he comes up, Mike. His name is Mike. And this elder comes up, and he's talking to me, just asking questions. First thing he asked me is, how did you, well, he introduced himself, and he said, how did you sleep? I said, really, really well. I said, okay. And then he asked me, like, why are you doing a division quest? And what does your wife think about it? And, things like that. And then he said to me, Patrick, get up at sunrise, which I had been doing. But I will tell you, there's some mornings I didn't want to get up because it was cold. But he says, get up at sunrise. That's when you do your prayers and your intentions. He says the forest is still asleep. And when you pray in the morning at sunrise, that's when we're closest to the Creator. And he says, and then you'll see the birds and you'll hear the birds. They'll start flying and chirping and singing, and they are taking your prayers to the Creator. And I was just like, man, it was such a beautiful thing. And so I made sure, I remember the next morning, I did not want to get up. It was cold, and I got up. I forced myself to get up and get out there. So that happened one morning. Check this out. One day, I'm out there in the morning, and it's snowing. And it's snowing. I'm looking up at the sky, and the snow's coming down. And it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. And Saturday night, I go to bed. I'm sitting out there in front of my tent, and I couldn't really watch the sunset on this particular night because there was overcast, but I knew the sun was setting, and it was getting darker. And, I'm out there, and I probably crawl into my tent around 9:40, and I'm starting to doze off. You get in that la land. It's such a great place to be when you're sleeping. And I hear this voice. Check this out. Hey, is someone in there? And I'm like, yeah. And 'cause I'm caught off guard, and it sounded like an older person, right? And, oh, well, what are you doing, camping? And immediately my dad popped into my head, who's passed away a number of years ago, because my dad would have answered something like, no, I'm baking brownies or something, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm camping. And, oh, okay. And now, meanwhile, I'm like, okay, now I got to get out. I got to see who this person is, because I was just out there and there was nobody around. And like, why is somebody out there at this hour? So I get out of the tent, and I get out, I stand up. I'm almost like ready to fight. Like, is somebody going to be there standing there? And I'm looking around, and I can look two directions where there's kind of a clearing. And I'm looking the one way, and then I move over a little bit. I look the other way, and I don't see anybody. And if somebody was there walking out of the forest, I would have seen them, and I didn't see anybody. I'm not saying that nobody was there, but it was just very bizarre, the hours, and I didn't see anybody before, and then the time of day. And so we're driving back, and Jamie asked me when she was driving me back to get my vehicle, she said, did anything strange happen or any stuff like that? I forget how she exactly phrased it. I said, well, it was one night, Saturday night, this is what happened. I told her the story, and she's like, oh, she got kind of excited. She's like, maybe that was a vision. Maybe that was, I said, I don't know. I mean, to this day, I'm like, was that really a person? I don't know what your beliefs are, that everybody listening to me, but I believe that there are spirits. I believe that there are even angels. I believe that there are people amongst us. I believe messages come to us in different ways. So I don't know what that was. I don't know if that was just some guy out there walking around, because I'm thinking if I saw a tent at that hour, I would not be calling to somebody in the tent. I would just keep on moving. And I don't know why somebody's sleeping out here, but I don't want to find out. So I don't know, but that was just something that happened on a Saturday night. So Sunday evening, the two gentlemen that ran the ceremony, Luke and Cody, I believe. I'm horrible with names, gentlemen. So if you're listening to this and I messed up your names, forgive me. They came by. These guys were great. And they brought me medicine. And it was a little cup of water with cedar in it. And they said, now don't, you haven't ate or drank. So your tendency is you just want to chug that and quench your thirst. And they're like, just sip it, take it slow. It's for your stomach. And so I did that. And that was like, oh man, was that just an amazing visit, brief visit with just a little bit of, when you haven't had anything to drink in 4 days, no water, nothing, not even like moisture from food because you're not eating. That is, wow, it was a godsend. Let's put it that way. So anyways, I go to bed that night, sunsets, go to bed, and it starts raining. It starts pouring. And it was so cool just laying there, listening to the rain hit the tent. And I got up the next morning, and it was wet everywhere. I mean, it's soaking wet. I'm like, man, how am I going to pack up my camp? But I did. I managed to get it done and stay dry and keep my stuff dry. Obviously, it's going to have to be laundered and everything when I got back. But anyways, I pack everything up, put it in my bag, hang my backpack on a tree with my sleeping bag and tent carabiner to that. And then I happened to be where my tent was the only dry spot in the forest, because my tent was there and it was a moss bed and water flowed around it, not through it. And so I just sat there and hung out and had my thinking. And I will tell you, that night I did not sleep well at all. That was the one night I could not sleep at all. And I think the reason being is I was really wanting this to end, but not wanting it to end. And the elders shared with me, that's a common feeling, common thought. And I thought it was like the last night of a vacation where you can't wait to get home and sleep in your own bed, but you don't want the vacation to end. It was kind of like that. So anyways, they come and get me, and they show up and they come and get me, and they walk out and they say, "Hey, it's time to come out of the forest." So they come and get me. They take me out, and there's all these petrographs there from thousands of years. And they were showing me some of them, and we were talking about them. So we hike out and we get to the truck. I'm putting my stuff in the truck. They said to me, "You're the only one coming out of the forest." And I was like, "Huh, what?" They're like, "Yeah, the other two chose to end their fast early." And, I humbly was like, wow, it was significant to me because I didn't know how I was going to do. And I knew there was always the option to end your fast early. And did I think I was going to? I didn't think I was going to, but did I know it was a possibility? Yes. And so to know that I made it through, that just kind of reinforced the fact that I made it through. And it was humbling and significant to me. So anyways, we drive, and while you're fasting on this vision quest, the elders, and many of these elders drive in from far away. They some of them drove 12 hours or more, and they come in and they set up camp a little ways away from where we were. And they set up camp there, and they keep a fire going, and they have ceremonies each day, and they make offerings to those who are on the vision quest and fasting. And when you come out, we did a ceremony, a beautiful ceremony, pipe ceremony. And I can't say enough how amazing it is. So anyways, you go around and you everybody talks. And so I said, here's what I said. I shared what an amazing experience it was. I shared some of my experiences. I said, I'm grateful that you allowed me to partake in this and participate and everything like that. And so I get done, and it goes to Mike, the one elder. And he says, "Patrick, your voice is your voice is your gift." And he said some other things. And then he said, and then you used a word. You said aloud. He says, "Don't allow power to be taken from you." Nobody allowed anything. You were brought here by the Great Spirit. You're supposed to be here. So you weren't allowed. This is where you're supposed to be, and this is what you're supposed to be doing. And I was humbled in that moment. And it gave me a new perspective on how I looked at it. And it gave me a new respect as well for what I had just gone through, and the people that made it possible by keeping these ceremonies and traditions alive. And that's, some of the elders, Robert, Dave Jr., Mike, everybody was so welcoming, so amazing. And the concept of this Turtle Lodge and what they do and their belief is just absolutely amazing. And that's one of the things they taught me while I was up there are the 7 sacred teachings. And the 7 sacred teachings are, so first of all, the astronaut, one of the astronauts was just on the Artemis mission. I can't recall his name off the top of my head. He went through the same vision quest I did. And when it was over and they came to get me out of the forest, they said, he set up camp right across from where you were, right over there. They pointed in a direction. And anyways, he actually had one of the artists design a mission patch with the 7 sacred teachings. And when he was in space and they do those interviews with the astronauts, he spoke about the 7 sacred teachings. And that's what I want to close this podcast out with, is talking about those 7 sacred teachings because I think they're so relevant, especially today. And, they talked, and I hope I get this right, but the first, each one's a word and then an animal. And the first one is the turtle. One of the elders said the turtle first and turtle is truth. And the turtle sets the pace. Turtles, we always think they're slow and this and that, but like the turtle is intentional and keeps us moving at the right pace so that we can be present in the moment and intentional, essentially. It's kind of my take on it. So this may not be 100% as they would say, but it's my taking and some of the insights that were said to me. And then is the buffalo. And the buffalo is respect. And the buffalo gave all of itself to the indigenous. It was a big part of their survival. And as they said, they used every part of the buffalo. Nothing was wasted. And so they had tremendous respect for that animal. And respect is just so important, especially when it comes to each other. The next is love. And love is the eagle. And the eagle is the bird that can fly the closest to the creator. And there's a great story about the eagle, the creator sending the eagle off to find good. I'll share another time. But next is courage. And courage is the bear. And as they said, the bear taught them to fast and the importance of fasting. And I got to tell you, somebody that fasts, it takes courage to fast. But next is this sabe was the word. I'm like, what is sabe? I knew what the picture was I was looking at, but I'm like, what is sabe? I think it's giant man, but it's basically, as we would know, is Sasquatch. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, Sasquatch? Is he real? And I think the last sighting in that area was 2007. I looked it up, and it was an Anishinaabe that was hunting and saw the Sasquatch. So anyways, that word is honesty. And essentially, they said, does he exist? Will you believe without seeing? And that the honesty is he's honest with, he is who he is, right? And so next is wisdom, and wisdom is the beaver. And so listen to this, because this was a profound takeaway. He said, Patrick, we could have an area devastated by fire, and the beaver will come in and cut down the trees with its teeth and can dam up the area and bring irrigation to the area and regrow the forest. And the beaver's gift is its teeth, and it has to use its gift. If it doesn't use its gift, its teeth will grow and grow and grow, and it will die if it doesn't use its gift. And, think about that for a minute. What is your gift? We've all been given gifts by our Creator. Do we use them? And the significance of the beaver, if it doesn't use its gift, it will die. And then I just had an elder tell me that my gift is my voice. And so I'm like, okay, am I using my voice correctly? That's my gift. How do I use it? How do I use it better? Where am I falling short? Anyways, the next one is humility, and it's the wolf, which I think is cool. And the elder was telling me about the wolf is in a pack, and the alpha leads the pack and everything like that, but how the wolf puts its head down when it encounters someone or something as a sign of humility. And I just thought, wow, to me, that was just powerful. So those were the 7 sacred teachings in a very short, condensed explanation of them. But again, they're truth, respect, love, courage, honesty, wisdom, humility. Think about those for a minute. Think about those. If we could practice them daily in our lives, in our business, in our relationships, and truly be true to them, truly practice them to the fullest extent possible, how amazing is that? What impact would we have on the world, on each other, and on ourselves? So while this episode might deviate a little bit from the trades, I will tell you how it relates to the trades. One, I'm a firm believer. Some of I hunt and fish nowhere near as I'd like to, but there was a peace I felt being out there in the forest on my own. And I believe that peace comes from that's where our ancestors came from. That's where we naturally lived. And I believe when we get back to it, when we get outdoors, we feel such peace because that's where we originated, in that environment. And I think there's a part of us that recognizes that and yearns for it and can feel that peace and comfort when we experience it. And that's just where we belong. Obviously, we're not going to go live outdoors. We've come too far, and I think it's too comfortable. But we need to get outdoors more. We need to be outdoors more. We need to take our shoes off and touch the earth. We need to let the sunshine hit our faces. We need to catch the rain on our tongue. We need to feel the cold air on our bodies. We need to observe nature. And I think if we can do more of that, we can come to a place that will allow us to reach that next level and have that peace of mind. And I think I'm a firm believer if we could do that, we would have a lot less issues with mental health and addiction and all of the things that plague us as a society. So yes, this was a little bit different, but I feel I'm a better operator. I have clear direction. I came away from that with a renewed sense of purpose, conviction, and direction. So I also want to share, I got some new ink. So this, I've wanted to have an eagle and the 13. 13 is a powerful number. And I have 13 on my arm as well, my other arm. And so I wanted to get that. But then I had that tattoo artist who was also indigenous that I found in Winnipeg. I had him do this tattoo, Zach. His name is Zach. And he was at 62nd Street Tattoo, something like that. Hey, if you're in Winnipeg and you need a good tattoo artist, Zach, shoot me a message. I'll hook you up with him. Did phenomenal work. He was great guy, just really talented. So anyways, hey, with that said, this is another episode of the Trepreneur Show. And listen, I've got to always do this at the end of the show because it's so important. I'd like to keep this going. I'm doing this whether I got 1 or 1 million listeners. And I'd certainly like to have more than 1. So if you're listening to this show, if you like this show, you know, one of the greatest things I could ask and appreciate you doing is if you could give me a rating. Just click those little stars. If you took the time to give a comment, that's very helpful. Really helps me with my rankings and how it shows up. And all you business owners out there, you know the importance of the algorithm to grow your business and your brand and everything like that. So that would be my personal ask of you, if you'd be so kind. Either way, I really hope you're getting something. There was a takeaway, a nugget or two. And until next time, win the day and be great.